Hello and welcome back to Heat Digest. I know it's felt like an eternity since I've said that, and that's my fault. I had to run out of town abruptly just a few days ago, but I'm back in the nick of time as the NBA playoffs and the NBA play-in games start yesterday, but ours starts today. The Miami Heat played today, April 17th, against a team that we know oh too well in the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll preview that game and also quickly recap how the Miami Heat season did end, as I did miss those last four games, and we're quickly going to recap that and how the playoffs currently are shaping up for this Miami Heat team in the rest of this Eastern Conference. Now let's get to it and break down that quick recap before we get into the actual play-ins and the playoff current situation that we're dealing with, not in the Eastern Conference. And to begin with, the Miami Heat closed out on a hotter note than, honestly, probably predicted. Now, we beat the Atlanta Hawks in a double overtime game that shouldn't have been that close, but we fought really hard. We ended up prevailing in the end after playing what felt like a 5-hour basketball game, sitting there watching it and thinking, oh my gosh, the Miami Heat are going to crumble down the stretch once again, which they did, just where they were able to contain themselves just a bit. Ended up winning that game in double overtime against the Atlanta Hawks, our final road game of this NBA season before coming home for our final three games. The first one being our most challenging, as this was a second game of a back-to-back. Yes, we played a back-to-back the night after a double overtime win against the Atlanta Hawks. After we did travel back to Miami. Yes, Atlanta to Miami is not that bad, but again, double overtime game, then traveling back home to then get half a day's worth of rest, to then play another game against a very, very good team in the Dallas Mavericks, who are being led by none other than Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, two of the greatest players in the game of basketball right now. They did beat us 111-92. Not our greatest performance. We looked like we played on the second night of a back-to-back, especially after a double overtime game the night prior. That was our last loss of our NBA season, as we went on to win 125-103 and then 118-103, both times over the Toronto Raptors, both of those games, closing out the Miami Heat's NBA season. It was an absolutely wonderful season, in my full honest opinion. Now, was it perfect from start to finish? Not even close. It wasn't perfect for really more than 3 games at a time, let alone a possession at a time for this Miami Heat team. But we'll break that down in possibly another video. Let me know down in the comments if you guys would like to see like an 8 to 9 minute video just on reviewing, grading this Miami Heat's team, this Miami Heat team in their season that they just went through just over these last 82 games. But now, let's quickly break down these standings and then get into what the playoffs currently look like for this Miami Heat team. So, season ended, 82 games have been played for everyone in the league, and the Miami Heat find themselves in the 8th seed of the Eastern Conference. Now, 8th seed, not really what you're aiming for it to be a good contender playoff team in either the East or the West, whatever is regardless. Boston is an outlier. They're 64-18. We're not even going to discuss them. Everyone else, it was interchanging until the last game played. That is a big reason the Miami Heat had to win the remainder of the games that they had. Dropping the one to Dallas obviously was not what they were looking for, but again, made good with what they had as they continued to win after that, and they won before that as well. So winning what they absolutely could. Now, we sit in the 8th seed, 18 games back from obviously the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics. But then we look at the rest of the standings. 7th seed Philadelphia 76ers, 6th seeded Indiana Pacers, and 5th seeded Orlando Magic are all tied at 17 games back. Now, due to tiebreakers and season series, the standings are as follows. There's not actually a tied for 5th place or anything. But again, all 3 of those teams 17 games back from the first spot, Boston Celtics. Then we find the Cleveland Cavaliers at the 4th spot, 16 games back. And then the little difference, the little wrinkle that has made a big difference in these NBA playoffs, and that we're going to highlight in just a second, is the 2nd and 3rd seeds in the Eastern Conference. First things first, the New York Knicks are the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, making the Milwaukee Bucks, who have not been great as of late, 3 out of their last 10 have been wins. That means they've lost 7 of them. Not a great record, especially closing out this season. Now, they are 49-33, but again, the New York Knicks do sit a game above them at 50-32, and that is why things are going to be so very interesting for this Miami Heat team as they go into a game against the Philadelphia 76ers that obviously we've played 4 times already this year. It feels like we've played them way more due to the fact that the last 2 games we have played them in, we've lost both of those games, one here, one at Philly. They were all competitive, all 4 games of this season series between these two teams. But again, not what we want to see. Yes, we did win the first 2 games of this season series, but we went on to lose the next two, and the next two were mind-numbing losses to say the least, due to the fact that we can't. It seems like we can't. We couldn't when these games were being played. Tomorrow or tonight's game will be hopefully a bit different on the defensive end of things for this Miami Heat team when guarding Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Yes, I'm fully aware you can only stop some parts of the game when the player is this good. When Joel Embiid is 7 foot tall, he can do everything a defensive-minded center could do or should be able to do, but he also has the ability to knock down open threes. He has the ability to make jump shots from the mid-range, the three-point line. He can make free throws. He can obviously score around the basket. He has a post game. He's a freak. And yes, he's going to get his. Just to what level does he manipulate our defense and really just control our defense from just how good he is? With Tyrese Maxey sitting alongside him as his Robin is an absolute nightmare for teams, let alone the Miami Heat. So again, it's going to be very interesting. The reason I'm ranting in this fashion about how good these two players are is if you guys did not watch these last 2 games between the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously Embiid was not present for the 3rd game, but in the 4th game, obviously he was, and he was a cheat code. It felt like a created player on 2K, and that's literally the best way I can say it. Tyrese Maxey, obviously not only in Game 4, but Game 3, that game, March 18th in Philly, they did not have Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey did whatever he wanted. It didn't matter if it was the first quarter, didn't matter if it was the fourth quarter. The ball was in his hands, the ball was out of his hands. He could have been on the bench. He was scoring for the Sixers. It was that bad, and we really have to know how to control both of these players, if not just minimize both of their degrees to some extent, or we're in for an extremely long night, and we have to be able to win this game, as this is what the play-in tournament currently looks like. The Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers, the 8 and the 7 seed battling down in the bottom right corner of this graphic. The winner of this game goes on to play as the 7th seed against the number 2 seeded New York Knicks. Now, obviously, I don't have to sit here and tell you guys that the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics, who would you rather play? It's the Knicks. Yes, they don't have Julius Randle. Yes, they are a young, good team, but they don't have Julius Randle, like I just said. And also, they're not the Boston Celtics, who have Tatum, who have Brown, who have Kristaps Porzingis. Like, their ability to stretch the floor, Porzingis' ability to stretch the floor just by himself, but let alone the other great pieces they have around him, their game planning, their ability to really play the game of basketball, not only on the offensive end, but the defensive end, with their ability to really expand and the ability to use their length and switch and keep things really going frequently, is terrifying, to say the least. But it's going to be very interesting. So let's hope. We have to hope for a dominant Miami Heat effort, a win in Philadelphia tonight on April 17th at 6 p.m. again in Philadelphia for this Miami Heat team. And with that win, we go on to play the New York Knicks. The loser of this game between the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers will play the winner of the Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks series. And then obviously the winner of that game would go on to play the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. I honestly am not a fan of the play-in tournament due to the fact that it's usually the top 8 teams get in. Not top 8, you're not getting in. It's just the way it works. Sorry, get better. But now with the ability to make an extra game, involve more players, involve more teams. Yes, it's a very cool format. I believe if they are going to do it any type of way, I believe this is a very fun and active way to keep not only the players involved in it, but keeping the fans and everyone else involved and enjoying what they're watching, making the stakes feel a bit higher. But for this Miami Heat team, we absolutely cannot expect ourselves to lose this game to Philly and then go in, play another game in order to beat the winner of Atlanta and Chicago to then get into the playoffs. Because until you get to that 7-game series, in my honest opinion, I do not believe you would be considered in the playoffs. You have to get to that 7-game series first. Whether it's the Knicks, it's the Celtics, whoever it is, you have to get out of the play-in tournament. You're strictly just trying to get into those playoffs still. Until you do that, you're still falling short. Now, going into this game, injury update: Duncan Robinson dealing with back discomfort. His facet, it's in his back, the same back discomfort or problem he's been dealing with for at least the last 2 weeks. Hopefully, if he does play, it's because he's feeling 100%. We've seen him return from injury, and he has not looked all that great. He still moves like he's not in great 100%. He's not feeling up to par, and because of that, his games have not been great statistic-wise, especially in the box score and his overall production. Then, Terry Rozier, dealing with a neck injury, absolutely not playing, and I'm glad he's not. When you're dealing with something as serious as a neck injury, do not play. It is not worth playing a scary game of, is this going to mess me up for the rest of my life if I play on it? Just sit out. Like, we have to win the game anyway to get into the playoffs. Yes, would your help be great? Obviously. You're the starting point guard on a good team, and you have a legitimate role on this team. You're not just a guy that brings the ball up and down the floor and then facilitates in the sense of getting the ball out of your hands and then runs around the set down screens. You are a legitimate scoring option on this team, and we definitely are going to need you if we want a deep playoff push against some of these high volume offenses in Indiana, Milwaukee, Boston. And so take the time you need. If we can't get in without you, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. And finally, I'm going to say that Jimmy Butler might be back. Yes, and I know this might be a stretch. As of the last month, it seems like we've really needed Jimmy to turn it on, and we just have not got it from him. And it's really upsetting because it seems like he's right there. And over the past few years, it seems like it was just a light switch. It was like, all right, we're going to do the thing. And it was like, boom. And then the light switch was turned on, and you were not getting Jimmy Butler. You're getting Himmy Butler. You're getting playoff Jimmy. And it felt like things were totally different. Not just a 180 change, but a 360-degree change. And, like, you were going to get not only a polarizing Miami Heat defense that was going to come out with high energy, but it was going to be led by someone in Jimmy Butler who's going to not only play at a high level energy-wise defensively and get out on the get out in fast breaks and set the tone offensively, but he was going to come down, and there was not going to be a lot of stress like we do see now, especially over the whole season this Miami Heat team has had on coming down, getting into a half-court set, and then there's a bunch of pressure on everyone to make a play, and they don't really know what, it almost looks like they don't know what to do. So whether or not we get that playoff Jimmy back, it's going to be interesting. But he had this to say as he got a cover of Slam Magazine and then a portion of questions answered throughout this article. And one of the top quotes catching a lot of media's attention is this, and I quote, "People really got to think about going up against the Miami Heat and myself. I know what I'm capable of. I know what my squad is capable of. Nobody wants to see us in a 7-game series." And that's the end of the quote. Jimmy Butler on facing the Miami Heat in the playoffs. Shout out to Clutch Points on Twitter, providing this awesome graphic with the two sick pictures of one Jimmy getting interviewed and then Jimmy obviously on the cover. Hopefully this is Jimmy acknowledging the fact that it's time to lace the shoes up. It's time to put the foot forward and really get things going for this Miami Heat team as we go into the biggest game of our NBA season, as we go into Philadelphia for a crucial game to figure out if we're either going to get the 7th seed and play the New York Knicks in the first round of this NBA playoff, or are we going to go to another battle of an NBA season and have to win another play-in game to hopefully then get matched up against the front runner all year long, the most dominant team all year long in the Boston Celtics. Well, it is all to be seen. We have big things coming on the Heat Digest channel, so remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.